Most people think wealth is built through giant breakthroughs. They think somewhere out there is a perfect investment, a secret side hustle, or a lucky opportunity that suddenly changes everything overnight. But history keeps showing something completely different. The people who quietly build lasting wealth are usually not the loudest, the flashiest, or the most aggressive. They are the people who master structure. The people who repeat small behaviors long enough for those behaviors to become a financial identity. And nowhere is that more visible than in Japan, where ordinary households have practiced forms of financial discipline that survive recessions, inflation, stagnant wages, and entire generations of economic uncertainty. Meanwhile, millions of Americans earn decent incomes and still feel financially trapped. They work harder, spend faster, upgrade lifestyles quicker, and somehow end up more anxious every single year. The issue is not intelligence. The issue is not ambition. The issue is that modern American spending culture rewards consumption while punishing restraint. This video is not about becoming rich overnight. It is about building a financial life that still works 20 years from now. Because real wealth is not what looks impressive this month. Real wealth is what survives decades. The average American household in 2026 carries thousands of dollars in consumer debt. Millions have almost no emergency savings. Even six-figure earners report living paycheck to paycheck because their lifestyle expanded at the exact same speed as their income. Every raise disappeared before it could become wealth. Now compare that to many Japanese households. Wage growth has been slow for decades. Interest rates stayed near zero for years. Economic growth often looked stagnant on paper. And yet countless families quietly accumulated financial stability through behavior, patience, and structure instead of financial theatrics. The difference is not magic. The difference is not genetics, or geography, or luck. The difference is systems. Quiet systems repeated for years until the results become impossible to ignore. The first Japanese habit that changes everything is called the Kakeibo purchase pause. Before buying anything non-essential, the person stops and asks 4 questions. How much money do I have right now? How much do I want to save this month? What exactly am I about to buy? And how will this purchase genuinely improve my life? That sounds simple until you actually do it. Because the moment you force yourself to physically write down the answers, impulse spending slows down immediately. The emotional excitement fades just enough for logic to finally catch up. Modern spending is designed to bypass reflection. One-click purchases, saved payment methods, buy now pay later systems, same-day delivery. The entire system is engineered to make spending happen before thinking does. The Kakeibo method restores the thinking part. Imagine opening Amazon at midnight, ready to spend $180 on random things you did not even plan to buy earlier that day. Now imagine forcing yourself to sit at a kitchen table with a pen and answer those 4 questions first. Most purchases shrink. Some disappear completely. This is not about deprivation. It is about removing unconscious spending from your life. Because most financial damage is not caused by one giant mistake. It is caused by hundreds of invisible small ones repeated constantly. The second habit is Hara Hachi Bu. In Okinawa, one of the longest living regions in the world, people traditionally stop eating when they are about 80% full. They do not wait until discomfort. They stop early. Applied to money, this changes everything. Most Americans build lifestyles that consume 100% of their income capacity. Every dollar gets assigned somewhere. The result is a life with no margin. One unexpected expense suddenly becomes a financial emergency. A car repair becomes debt. A medical bill becomes stress. A layoff becomes panic because the budget was already operating at full capacity before the problem arrived. The Japanese approach builds life around 80% consumption. If a household earns $6,000 per month after taxes, their lifestyle gets designed around $4,800. The remaining amount disappears automatically into savings, investments, or future reserves before spending decisions even begin. That difference matters psychologically. Saving money after spending requires discipline every month. Removing money before spending requires discipline once. One relies on motivation. The other relies on structure. And structure always beats motivation long term. Because motivation changes with stress, emotions, fatigue, and life circumstances. Systems continue working even on bad days. The third habit is called Mottainai. It represents the idea that waste is shameful. Not just financially wasteful, but morally wasteful. Throwing away something useful creates discomfort because value was destroyed unnecessarily. Modern American consumer culture teaches the opposite. Replace instead of repair. Upgrade instead of maintain. Buy new instead of preserving what already works. Phones get replaced every 2 years. Furniture gets thrown away over cosmetic scratches. Clothing gets discarded because trends changed instead of because usefulness disappeared. Entire kitchens fill with gadgets used twice before collecting dust forever. Japanese households often approach ownership differently. Objects are expected to last. Repairs are normal. Maintenance is part of ownership, not an inconvenience. A laptop battery replacement for $80 prevents a $2,500 new purchase. A tailor extends the life of a coat for another 5 years. Shoes get repaired instead of replaced. Furniture gets refinished instead of discarded. The numbers become enormous over time. A household that consistently repairs instead of replacing can save tens of thousands of dollars across decades. Invested over 30 years, those savings quietly become 6 figures. This is the hidden power of small habits. They rarely look dramatic in the moment. The magic only appears after enough years stacked together. The fourth habit is Gaman, the discipline of endurance and restraint. In American culture, self-control is often viewed negatively. People are encouraged to reward themselves constantly. Buy the thing. Upgrade the lifestyle. Treat yourself because you deserve it. But Gaman teaches something different. The ability to want something and still choose not to buy it is considered strength, not deprivation. Strength. Apply this to purchases over $200. Create a mandatory 30-day waiting period. No exceptions. Write the item down. Revisit the list 1 month later. Most desires disappear long before the 30 days end. What felt emotionally urgent on day 1 often feels irrelevant by day 21. The craving fades because many purchases were never about utility in the first place. They were emotional reactions disguised as financial decisions. This single rule prevents thousands of dollars in lifestyle inflation every year. And more importantly, it filters out purchases that never mattered. The fifth habit is Hansei, structured self-reflection. At the end of every month, Japanese businesses often review performance, including successful projects, to identify weaknesses and inefficiencies. The same principle applies perfectly to personal finance. Once a month, sit down with your bank statements and review every category. Not to shame yourself, not to panic, simply to observe patterns honestly. Which expenses created real value? Which ones disappeared from memory immediately? Which subscriptions quietly drained money without improving life at all? This process is uncomfortable because it removes illusions. People discover they spent hundreds of dollars on convenience purchases they barely remember. They realize stress spending became routine. They see how boredom quietly became expensive. But awareness changes behavior. The moment spending becomes visible, unnecessary consumption loses some of its power. The sixth habit is Kaizen, continuous small improvement. Americans often attempt financial transformation through giant dramatic changes. Extreme budgets, massive spending cuts, aggressive investing plans. Most collapse because the changes are psychologically exhausting. Kaizen works differently. Improve by 1% at a time. Tiny changes repeated consistently become enormous over decades. Increase savings by 1% per year. Reduce 1 unnecessary subscription this month. Cook at home 1 extra night per week. Small changes feel insignificant in isolation. Together, they completely reshape financial outcomes. This is how compounding actually works in real life. Not through intensity, through consistency. The seventh habit is Shoshin, beginner's mind. Once a year, Japanese households approach recurring expenses as though seeing them for the first time. Every subscription, every membership, every automatic payment gets questioned again. Would I still sign up for this today, knowing what I know now? If the answer is no, cancel it immediately. The average American household spends thousands annually on recurring subscriptions. Many go unnoticed for years because autopay removed visibility. Tiny monthly charges become permanent financial leaks. Streaming services multiply. Premium apps stack together. Old memberships survive long after usefulness disappears. Most households are not intentionally choosing these expenses anymore. They are simply tolerating them. One annual subscription audit can free hundreds or thousands of dollars permanently. And unlike earning extra income, reducing unnecessary recurring expenses creates instant guaranteed returns. The 8th habit is cash friction. Japan still uses physical cash heavily in daily life, and research consistently shows people spend less money when using physical cash instead of cards or digital payments. Why? Because handing over physical money creates emotional friction. Spending feels real. Digital spending removes pain. One tap, and the transaction disappears into abstraction. The emotional disconnect encourages overspending because the brain processes digital payments differently. Try withdrawing weekly cash for restaurants, coffee, entertainment, and impulse spending categories. When the cash runs out, spending stops. No negotiations, no swiping anyway. This system sounds restrictive until you experience the psychological freedom it creates. Decision fatigue disappears because the limit already exists. The wallet decides for you. The 9th habit is wabi-sabi, accepting imperfection. Most budgets fail because people expect perfection. One bad week ruins motivation. One overspend category creates guilt. Then the entire system collapses. Wabi-sabi understands something crucial. Imperfect systems sustained for decades outperform perfect systems abandoned after 3 months. A budget working at 80% consistency for 20 years beats a perfect budget followed briefly before quitting. Financial progress is never perfectly linear. Life interrupts plans constantly. The goal is not flawless execution. The goal is survival, sustainability, continuation. The 10th habit is generational stewardship. In Japan, many financial decisions are evaluated across generations instead of short-term comfort. Wealth is viewed as something temporarily managed, not consumed immediately. This changes behavior dramatically. Houses get purchased differently. Debt gets approached differently. Investments become long-term tools instead of emotional scoreboards. Most American households think in 5-year timelines. Wealthy families often think in 50-year timelines. That difference changes nearly every financial decision. The 11th habit is social accountability. Historically, Japanese communities often formed financial accountability groups where members shared savings progress and financial goals openly. Modern American culture often hides financial truth. People discuss purchases more than savings. Status becomes visible. Stability stays invisible, but accountability works. A small trusted group sharing savings rates, debt progress, and financial goals monthly often creates stronger discipline than any app ever could. Because humans naturally protect identity. Once people publicly define themselves as financially disciplined, behavior slowly aligns with that identity. The 12th and final habit is patience. Real patience. Not motivational quote, patience. Multi-decade patience. This is the hardest one because modern culture trains people to expect visible progress immediately. Fast results, quick upgrades, constant stimulation. But wealth rarely feels dramatic while it is being built. Most compounding happens invisibly for years, sometimes decades. At first, savings feel small, investments feel slow, progress feels almost disappointing compared to online millionaire stories. But quietly, the foundation strengthens. Then eventually, something changes. The portfolio grows faster than contributions. Investments start producing meaningful income. Financial emergencies stop feeling catastrophic. decisions become calmer because margin exists. And one day you realize something strange. Money no longer controls every decision you make. That is the real goal. Not luxury, not status, freedom. The truth is most people will never build wealth because they keep searching for intensity instead of systems. They want dramatic strategies instead of boring consistency. But boring repeated correctly becomes extraordinary over time. The Japanese habits work because they are not built around excitement. They are built around endurance. They survive inflation, recessions, stagnant wages, and emotional market cycles because human behavior stays consistent underneath all those conditions. And maybe that is the biggest lesson in this entire video. Wealth is not usually destroyed by lack of intelligence. It is destroyed by lack of structure. A household earning $70,000 with discipline often outperforms a household earning $250,000 without it. Not because income does not matter. Income matters enormously. But unmanaged lifestyle expansion can consume almost any income level eventually. The world constantly tells you to upgrade your life faster. Bigger house, better car, more subscriptions, more convenience, more consumption. But every upgrade quietly increases the amount of money required to maintain your current existence. That is the trap. And once people enter it deeply enough, even high incomes stop feeling safe. The households that escape are usually not the ones making the loudest financial moves. They are the ones quietly creating space between income and spending year after year until compounding takes over. Because compounding is not just mathematical, it is behavioral. Good habits compound. Discipline compounds. Restraint compounds. Small systems compound. And eventually, the results become impossible to fake. 20 years from now, most people will still be chasing financial shortcuts that never worked. Others will quietly own paid-off homes, large investment accounts, low-stress lives, and options they built slowly through structure. Not because they discovered secret investments. Not because they timed the market perfectly. Because they learned how to delay gratification long enough for time to finally reward them. That is the real wealth gap. Not income. Behavior. And the people who understand that early gain an advantage that becomes almost impossible to catch later.